Greetings to the respected subscribers and guests of the channel. In the 30s of the 20th century in the Soviet Union, a unique phenomenon developed in the state with a tough repressive apparatus. A criminal structure arose that had its own hierarchy and subculture. There are simply no analogues of the thieves movement in world criminal practice. Thieves in law are not just leaders of the criminal world, lawmakers are simultaneously bearers of criminal traditions and ideology. Third, judges who resolve conflicts between representatives of the criminal world, custodians of common criminal money, supplying food to places of detention, and the supreme power, which has the right to pardon executioners. Thief in law is a title similar to a noble title, and the initiation of thieves in law is called a coronation. Only other thieves can crown a thief for services to the criminal world and an infallible reputation. For this purpose, a meeting of thieves is organized, called a gathering. The lifestyle and functions of thieves in law, the official nature of their coronation, the existence of a strict code of criminal traditions, as well as the exceptional level of secrecy and conspiracy of this community, to a lot of theories of speculation about the origin of this unique tradition, about how and why thieves in law appeared, about where thieves in law came from in socialist reality. There are several versions. The first version is noble. According to this version, the first true thieves came from repressed white officers and other nobles who did not have time to flee the country. The initiation ceremony of thieves' coronation testifies in favor of this version. The very concept was clearly alien to the proletarian punks, and the thieves' code clearly implies much more nobility and thoughtfulness than one would expect from street tramps ready for any outrages. Researchers of the issue believe that the former white nobles, wanting to maintain some kind of brotherhood even in the camps, began to unite into a community. Indeed, in the first years after the revolution, officers, officials, and representatives of the intelligentsia who did not accept Soviet power created secret societies for an internal struggle against Soviet power, including in places of detention. In the first years of the formation of the camps, arbitrariness reigned there, both on the part of the administration and within the prison community. Having professional combat training and a good education, the whites quickly took over the leadership from the illiterate and dead old Qataris. Began to establish their own order in the camps by analogy with the army, having built a hierarchical structure similar to the army and having established a number of rules similar to the charter, so that even among such a contingent that was in the prisons of that time it was possible to live tolerably. The whites forbade stealing from their own, unprovoked violence, and other things that destroy peaceful coexistence. Violators of discipline were severely punished, as was customary in the army. It was this community that by the 30s began to be called thieves in law, meaning precisely the thieves' law, that is, those very strictly observed rules. This theory is also supported by the fact that nicknames like Prince, Count, and the like were widespread among thieves for a long time. Here are some of them. Count Sanka Chukotka killed in 58, Baron killed in 57th, General Tolik Kivite died in 53rd, Prince Vanka Grozny killed in 1947, and others about whom not even dates have been preserved: Baron Ryazan, Count Barnol, Count Vanka Muscovite, Count Kolka, St. Petersburg, Count Yuka Vorkshta, Count Rostov, Prince Yuka Ivanovsky. These nicknames were received before the war in the 20s, 30s. After the war, such are no longer found. But since these original thieves became fewer and fewer of them were shot or they died in the hardships of the Gulag, they began to crown simply worthy people and ready to support the code they developed, usually from among the convicted criminals. Initially, coronations took place only in places of imprisonment. However, there were significantly more crowned thieves than ever before, after which the count went into the thousands of people. This theory most easily explains the thieves' fierce rejection of the Bolshevik government and the hatred of the thieves for the communists, which persisted until the collapse of the Soviet Union. Also in favor of this version is the complete refusal to work, which is not due to thieves by status, love for card games, which were very popular among nobles and officers. Principled attitude to card debt for a thief, as well as for a nobleman, a matter of honor, as well as the tradition of punishing subordinates for offenses with a slap. However, against this version speaks the following: criminal trade, like any other profession, requires mastery of a craft. Former officers did not have such skills and therefore could hardly be authorities for seasoned criminals. In addition, the white guards for the most part did not have experience working underground, so they were quickly neutralized by the Cheka GPU. Those who had such experience had already found themselves lucrative positions in the ranks of foreign intelligence agents and had no need to engage in criminal activity. The White Guard version of the emergence of thieves in law seems the most dubious to many historians.
Version 2.
Bolshevik. According to this version, thieves in law were created by the OGPU in the first years of Soviet power in order to control the criminal world from within. This version seems quite plausible since most Soviet leaders had long fought underground against the Tsarist regime and were often double and sometimes triple agents. They lived underground for years and spy games were in their blood. Of course, such people first of all came up with the idea of creating their own agent network in the uncontrollable criminal world, which moreover were many ideologically dangerous former White Guards who united in their own communities. Another reason for the creation of thieves in law is considered to be the desire of the Chekists to oppress former White Guards, nobles, and other dissenters in the camps. According to this theory, the first thieves in law were those supported by the GPU, and after the NKVD criminals repeat offenders of common origin. It was beneficial for the OGPU and the NKVD to keep numerous political prisoners in fear and obedience, thereby simplifying the task of the jailers. Indeed, in many historical sources one can find information about how the Bolsheviks oppressed political prisoners in Solovki and the Gulag at the hands of so-called socially close criminals. For their work, Lotharios received enhanced nutrition, the opportunity not to work, and relative safety in reprisals against the enemies of their agent. The Chekists turned a blind eye. According to this version, the Thieves movement was created by communists on the same principle as the Communist Party to maintain order behind bars. The structure was party. These are the Politburo, but under the control of the cops. In the local prisons and zones, the authorities are in charge. The thieves, proteges, and the overseers, the promoted from among the criminal underworld. This is approximately the same as in the Communist Party, the secretaries of regional and district committees and primary organizations are enterprises. Deductions to the common fund are party dues. Those wishing to get into the criminal nobility, the party nomenclature, as well as candidates for membership in the CSU, were subject to certain requirements for their biography. These were forbidden to have a family, serve in the army, be a pioneer or a Komsomol member, turn in accomplices, bathe in luxury, you had to sit in prison, and so on. There is also a version that the thieves did not directly cooperate with the administration, and the NKVD used them to control the prisoners blindly. Since it was becoming increasingly difficult for the 1,000-strong guards to maintain order in a 1,000,000-strong crowd every year, the NKVD relied on the most developed and authoritative category of criminals, repeat offenders, pickpockets, and swindlers. They were drawn into the struggle for power, and those who won this power were given. According to this version, this whole multi-move combination was played out in extreme secrecy, a secret from the Gulag itself. Even the thieves in law did not suspect their secret mission. The fathers of the NKVD carried out this behind-the-scenes intrigue so skillfully that they allegedly added to the law the already existing thieves. According to another version, the leaders themselves began to call themselves lawmen, who created and honored their thieves' laws. However, according to many researchers, snitching was too widespread in Soviet camps for anything to happen without the administration's knowledge. And criminal leaders, openly opposing the administration, were strangled. Even in the embryonic stage, all the Gulag prisoners hated the Soviet regime, which the Chekists took advantage of by creating the image of an irreconcilable fighter against the regime. Who in fact had to perform the actions necessary for the administration to convince the men of the need to work, and report to the administration about everything that was happening in the camp. With the thief they shared their most secrets, both men and thugs, and it was impossible to come up with a better informant. Law enforcement officers who support this theory like to joke that a thief was decoded as a freelance operative. But over time there were too many thugs, due to the economic unprofitability of the post-war Gulag, and the acute shortage of labor due to numerous military losses. And also because in 1946 the NKVD and KGB was finally disbanded, and on its foundation the MGB was created. The new leadership decided to refuse such employees. The thieves were forced to work and deprived of all privileges. However, the thieves did not want to give up their privileged position and refused to work on an equal basis with everyone else, which ultimately led to the beginning of the Bitch War. Version 3. Odessa. According to this version, the prototype of the thieves movement originated in revolutionary Odessa. In the second year of World War I, the Russian Empire faced a food crisis. The country was peasant. The basis of agriculture, as centuries ago, remained manual labor. 8 million peasants of the most working age were drafted into the army. By 1915, the amount of arable land in the Russian Empire had already decreased by a quarter The emerging shortage of bread was compounded by a commodity crisis. 2/3 of industry switched to military production, and the shortage of civilian goods immediately gave rise to a surge in prices, speculation, and the beginning of inflation. With a general shortage, even clothing and essential goods had material value. It was then that crime raised its head. The Russian Empire was engulfed in an epidemic of thefts of everything. The stolen goods were sold off to quite respectable citizens. The chaos that had begun needed to be controlled somehow, but the warring state had no time for this. And then the most authoritative criminal leaders took on their function.
The king of criminal Odessa of those years was Mikhail Yapunchik-Moishevinsky, who returned to Odessa in 1917 under the Kerensky amnesty after 9 years of hard labor.
According to one version, his nickname is connected with the fact that he told Odessa thieves about the lifestyle of Japanese thieves in the city of Nagasaki. According to him, Japanese colleagues agreed on uniform rules of doing business and never violated them. Vinitsky suggested that Odessans follow their example. His fame thundered in 1918. It was then that an appeal from a group of thieves appeared in the newspaper Odessa Post, which proclaimed a kind of code of honor. The bandits announced that they were acting in concert with sailors and workers. They swore to rob only the bourgeoisie. They demanded respect and promised to help the poor. In addition, Yapunchik forbade unnecessary violence and especially murder. Those who violated the established rules were held strictly accountable. So the Japanese bear brought relative order to troubled Odessa, and that is how, according to one version, the first thieves' concepts appeared. In Odessa, all criminal processes from theft to sale were taken under control by criminal authorities who were respected and feared in criminal circles, and over whom, in turn, stood Yapunchik. Everyone, from pickpockets to drug dealers, made deductions to the thieves' common fund precisely for the innovations listed above. Mikhail Yapunchik is called the father of thieves in law, and sometimes even the first thief in law. However, this is not true. Professor Jelinsky, who studies the criminal world, claims that Mikhail Yapunchik really did not like violence, especially wet work. But he was not a thief in law, at least because the thieves' code itself appeared only in the late 20s.
Mikhail Yapunchik can be called the forerunner of thieves in law.
The emergence of such criminal authorities in a feverish country was beneficial, and the law enforcement agencies there understood that numerous criminals demanded their generals who could manage and control them, since the law enforcement officers themselves had long been short of hands. It was this community of authoritative crooks living by strict rules that eventually formed into a community of thieves in law a little over 10 years later, already in the Gulag camps. It is difficult to establish how it really was. Representatives of the thieves' title were not drawn to literary activity, and memoirs on such topics were not encouraged in every way. So the few testimonies are the recollections of political prisoners who observed the criminals from the sidelines. One thing is reliably known: by the end of the 30s of the 20th century, the system of thieves in law was fully formed. It acquired a long-standing, unchanged ideology and a unique culture, and stood out from other criminal castes. This was a channel Everything About Prison. Like and subscribe to the channel. Good luck to you.